Friends, I'm going to invite someone who is making people change the design of their car or vehicle. And yes, friend, I would like to invite the Indian car, a famous designer and the founder of DC Design, on the stage. May I request Dilip Chhabaria to come on the stage, and may I request AV to be on.
Dilip Chhabaria. It takes a special kind of zeal to follow your vision, but it takes even more courage to close down a successful business to pursue a bigger dream. This journey began when Dilip Chhabaria returned to India after spending a year at General Motors Design Center. His experience in the car mass production business made him realize that his passion lay in developing and designing unique creations. He started creating automotive accessories for the mass market. Within a decade, it became the largest accessory manufacturing outfit in the country. Then, he founded DC Design, called DCD, to redesign and create one-of-a-kind automotive beauties. DCD has produced more than 600 unique design cars, from supercars to a complete rehaul of the humble Ambassador. Today, DCD also designs and refurbishes aircraft interiors. DC Design is now synonymous with avant-garde automotive design. We extend a warm welcome to him and present to him the Dynamic Designer Award at the Miracle Discon of Rotary District 3141.
May I request Kamal to come on the stage, please?
Rotary International District 3141 is pleased to honor Dr. Dilip Chhabaria and confer upon him the Dynamic Designer Award for his creativity and transforms automobiles from mere transport vehicles to an aesthetic experience at Anandotsav on 23rd February. Let me tell you, friends, I think Dilip has been the dream for most of us since we were in college to own one of his cars. So I just told him, you know, when we were in college, we wanted to own a car, but we could never afford it. So, and then Dilip said that even I can't afford my cars. Yeah. So.
Thank you, sir. Your response, please. Shankar, presentation is loaded. Shankar. Can you have the presentation on?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure being here this afternoon. By the time they load the presentation, which is a very interesting presentation, it's in two parts. Primarily, the first part talks about what's happening in the world of automobiles. As you all probably are aware that the automotive industry is the world's biggest industry by far, has been the biggest industry for the last 100 years. It continues to be the biggest industry by a wide margin. And that's because you and I buy a car every 3, 4, 5 years, which is the second most expense after a house. Everywhere I go, because of my identity as a car designer or as somebody who's independent and fiercely, knowledgeable, fierce, globally attuned due to my travels, I'm frequently asked questions about, is the are electric cars going to be the mainstay? What about autonomous driving? What about driverless cars? And I thought I would delve on this subject. Since I've been given half an hour, I think I'll take about 10 minutes to delve on this subject. So, in some sense, the electric car movement is in a state of flux because it's a chicken and egg story. So, unless you get the car's cost down, not enough consumers will buy it. And you can only get the car's cost down if there are enough volumes being produced. So who's going to build the cat? So that's where it's kind of a tricky situation. But nevertheless, I think what's changed the situation hugely of late is China. About 10 years back, the United States was expected to be the leading producer of electric cars, with the US government giving a $4 billion grant, and therefore you had Teslas and other cars really coming up into the marketplace. And that has lost the moment. The electric car movement actually has shifted to China. And that's primarily because the government has embarked on a $60 billion grant to car makers, to entrepreneurs like you and me. I can have a car design on a laptop, and it's quite possible I can get a $1 billion grant from the Chinese government. And that's because, of course, China has $4 trillion of reserves. I don't think any other country can even come close to that. So they are driving that movement towards the electric car movement for two reasons. One is there was heavy criticism on smog in Shanghai and Beijing a couple of years back, and I think the government took that criticism to its heart, and therefore they wanted to do something about it. So they really have done a lot more. It's the world's largest producer of electric cars, largest producer of batteries, will be more and more so because they are getting the volumes that other countries are simply not able to get. But more importantly, they realize that with the electric car, they can dump the hegemony of the Western car makers who have been over 100 years old, largely through the captive IPR in their design and in their engine technology. Now, you all know engines can come very expensive, about $5 billion, $10 billion each. So here was a situation where you don't need to have an internal combustion engine, so you don't need to have that credibility, you don't need to have that legacy. And that's what I think China has seen. So the problem is going to be that, how is China going to populate the world's, production centers with the electric cars? And I think that's where the interesting thing is happening, is that the epicenter of the automotive development or the automotive market, which was the United States and Europe or Japan, is shifting very rapidly towards China, primarily because it's also the world's biggest market by far. 30 million units versus 17 million units for the US, and about 3 million units for India. And also they constitute the largest capacity for electric cars. So I think the whole hegemony will now be reversed. So you'll have China actually selling battery packs, selling motors, selling the technology to other car companies, other continents. And that's because while there have been a lot of debate on whether the electric car really reduces pollution, because all that you're doing is you're shifting the pollution away from the tailpipe to the electric power plants. But nevertheless, I think it does move away the pollution from the city centers. So I think that's the prognosis for the electric cars. As far as today is concerned, most electric cars that have succeeded have been in the luxury segment because people have the ability to pay that kind of price. And that's why you realize that Tesla succeeded, but a model like the Chevrolet Bolt or the Nissan Leaf did not do enough volumes as Tesla did, because the people who are buying the Tesla had the money to buy. I mean, they were not looking for economy models. So I think China is changing that fast. Secondly, I think I'm also frequently asked this question about autonomous cars. There's a lot you may have read, you may have heard. Autonomous cars are born out of the tech giants' cash reserves. The Googles, the Ubers, the Apples of the world, they need a next new product to really keep their growth momentum going. And so they realize that they can sell a device to a car maker, so it will be attached to a car, and that device will enable the car to be autonomous. So there have been a lot of scenarios where some countries feel that they are proactive and they welcome it. For example, since these devices have been born out of the US tech giants, US is leading out front there to ensure that they are able to regulate well in time. But in any case, people don't expect an autonomous car to be legal, street legal, before the year 2025. Europe is way back behind, and Japan even more so behind. So, of course, it's my belief that once you have these autonomous cars, since most accidents occur due to human error, the world or the roads may become safer, much like the situation you have in aircrafts. So, there are 5 levels of automation, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. You will be surprised to know that up to level 3, where the cars can park themselves, and up to 25, 30 kilometers an hour, the cars are able to drive themselves on the road, are sold even in India, showrooms. I personally drive a car which has level 3 automation as well. So it's a matter of time. However, I think commercial vehicle applications, this is going to be regulated much faster, because it kind of reduces the need of a driver having to drive 16, 18 hours, and there are shortages of drivers in any case. So those are the 2 aspects of the future of the car industry, as I think. And I think, like everything in life, this change is happening faster than what we can imagine to be. So this is something I just spoke to you extempore. I mean, we can skip this. So interesting, China and India are almost 40% of the world's population, 40-45%, but they will be 50% of the world's automotive demand. And they are going to drive the design and the other aspects of development. Death of the IC engine, as I said, is something we can avoid. So I think for India, the sweet spot would be to occupy a niche because the electric car now makes it possible for many, many entrepreneurs to start their own factories. They don't have to invest a couple of $1 billion, because you're buying a battery and you're buying an engine that is really, a generic. So the cost of projects really comes down, and I think that's one of the reasons why the industry in future is expected to be a very, very dynamic industry. Worldwide, because the auto industry is over 100 years old, it is seen as a sunset industry. Of course, not in India and China, but in the world it is seen as a sunset industry because growth is flat and saturated markets. And you suddenly will have a situation where you can have very small volumes, custom made and designed specifically. Therefore, higher margins. to the next presentation. So thank you for bearing with me. So the next presentation is all about, what makes us tick. I mean, the fact that I'm here is probably some of you think we are unique and we have done some great work, and, why is it that, we can design great cars and car manufacturers are not able to do it. And so this presentation will answer all of those queries. Also, it contains a portfolio of what we have done, the disparate portfolio. And I think this presentation is always interesting to some of the audience that I've actually addressed. Okay, so I'll go fast. I won't tell you the presentation. So our philosophy in the company or DC Design has been that we do anything, any project that we do has to spell a wow. If it's not a wow, we don't take the project for revenue, because we don't chase money because we are comfortable, and our vision is to be from being a major player in the automotive design and development field, to which how we grew, to be a globally acclaimed niche OEM. Some of you might know that we make our own sports car now, so that's how we are transiting to become an OEM. I'll skip this, some of this I'll skip. The revenue streams that we have, we have standard products where we invest money because we feel there's enough volume. We have custom products, and then we have the completely built up units. So it's a very unique company in the sense that we are a B2B and a B2C company. Most companies can't straddle both these streams. You're either a B2B or a B2C. So we work with the global elite of car companies and the global elite of individual customers. Thank you. Some of these testimonials. Okay, so this is a very interesting slide, and of course we don't have time for questions today, but a lot of questions get emanated from this slide. So what made us successful? Of course, this is in hindsight I'm talking about. The first reason was eponymous success. So, because if your company is named after you and there is social stigma on failure, you simply can't afford failure, and you actually walk that extra mile for everyone, be it your vendors, be it your employees, be it your customers, and that really endears you to people, and that's the reason why you succeed. And therefore, if you see, most of the successful companies have been named after the founders. In fact, I very often tell some of my corporate clients that if you really want the company to succeed, name a division after the main person, and you'll see how well he performs. So obsessive passion is the next slide. I feel passion is gradable. It's 80%, 90%, 98%. When I get scores of sketches from youngsters daily, when they show me a bike, a car, maybe a phone, and I actually put it back into the waste paper basket because it doesn't reflect obsessive passion. When you're obsessively passionate about a product or a field, you can only eat, sleep, drink that, nothing else. And that really gets you the success that you think you desire. Early bird gets the worm. That's a very common adage. You have to be the first. You have to have the first mover advantage. Though some in the business world feel that there are enough stories of how this aspect may not be totally true. There are companies which are second or third are the ones that succeed. I disagree with that because I just feel that being the first on the block gives you tremendous advantages if you conduct your business well, if you are serious about the business. Intangible mastering is something that I personally believed in 25, 30 years back, that I rather have a brand that was able to give me an incremental margin that would flow to my bottom line. So In short, if I had 10 crores profit in a particular year, I would never buy a land and building. I would spend that money on brand. And that because you actually get distance from the would-be competitors, you build up the brand, and brand is actually far more valuable than any hard asset you can ever have. Disruptive USP, you got to have some USP. When we started in 1993, I was able to approach the European clients because we told them we can mate your digital data to our craftsmanship. The affordable Indian craftsmanship, scalable, affordable Indian craftsmanship. Their skills had died out, so I used that to my advantage. Dynamic matrix of products and services, as I said, B2B, B2C, plus also right from cars to coaches to aircraft. So you never have a dull moment. Self-obsolescence, you've got to really have the courage to, obsolete a product that is even doing well to get into a new one, because by that measure, you're able to distance from a would-be competitor hugely. I mean, this is something that I had my experience with accessories. When I would make an accessory, it would be copied by some Delhi guys in 3 months. They would slash the price, and though my item was registered, they had, contempt for justice system, and they would say, "Oh, you can do what you like." And I realized that the only way to beat them was at their own game in the market by creating a new product as soon as they introduce one. So we followed the same practice in the car business. Paranoia, we pride ourselves on being paranoid because that keeps us on our toes from every single aspect. Casting the net wide, as I said, we sell in India, we sell in Europe, we have a design school. So you got to keep, breaching those envelopes to really get into newer areas. Back to the wall. Now, this is a favorite adage of mine. I believe that if you do not have your back to the wall, you will not succeed. And if you have your back to the wall, the survival genetic encodement in you takes over to make sure you succeed and survive. And I've done it every single day in my company. I do it, and I've always succeeded. The point is, we generally don't have the courage to put ourselves with the back to the wall. So I tell my employees, risk everything. I have no problem because I know the survival instinct will take over with them. Long-term versus short-term, obviously long-term is where you should be gunning for. So some of the portfolios that we have, I'll run it very fast just for you to get a flavor of our capabilities. Some of the business class buses that operate from Bangalore to Chennai and Delhi to Jalandhar, they are in the true sense business class buses as far as legroom, sleeping, television, and what have you. Some of the business vans, they're used by corporates or executive travel. Some motorhomes. Some, privacy vans, the comfort of an office in the true sense, with a toilet at the back. Some of the standard products which we have invested a lot of money on passenger cars. Again, the USP of our company is that we do what a manufacturer cannot do or will not do because of skill or because of scale. And that's where we come in. And our products offer comfort, privacy, entertainment, and ambience. These are heavily customized coaches. They usually, are commissioned by film actors or politicians or leading film stars. Some of the bulletproof vehicles. So this is our sports car. We are very proud of what we have achieved. This is the only car developed, the only car manufactured and designed in the developed world. Russia, Brazil, or China does not have the capability yet. We were able to do it because, thank you. We were able to do it primarily because we have been designing cars for other car companies, so we really acquired a lot of domain knowledge. And also we realized that in India, with the high custom duties, not many people can afford a Ferrari or Lamborghini. And the target was to be really at 1/10 or 1/15 the cost of a Ferrari, which it is. So the fact is that I, as a designer, became a customizer, because a designer usually doesn't get involved in the entrepreneurship of factory shop floor. I did it because of the excessive passion that I had, and then from there, from the customizer, we now became a car manufacturer. So we are the only, I think we are the only design. First of all, there are not many independent design companies in the world, I think barely 3. And we are the only ones who have actually transited to being a car manufacturer. Now, the benefit is that because you have homologated your car, you've gone through their tests and the certification, it's helped my custom business immense fold, because the customers now have tremendous faith in our custom projects because they know it's a company that actually put their own car on the road. So it's a win-win for all. This one is slated for production next year. This is it will be the world's first 2-door, 4-seat convertible SUV. So this is a new version of the sports car. This is a second version. It's already ready. We are now into the development stage. Some of the projects that we have done for car companies. So mind you, I'm only showing you about 2% or 3% of the images which have leaked out into the public domain, because when we do projects for car companies, they're very, very confidentially bound. I'm usually able to talk only after 10 years or 5 years after the car has ceased production. But so some which have found their way into public domain, I'm talking about it. This is a Mahindra electric car. We've done a lot of electric cars. For Tatas, we've done an electric van, electric car for Tatas. This is an electric car for Maruti, it's the Ertiga. This is a Renault Twizy, it's now on sale in Europe. The BMW Mini, Chevrolet Beat, the Renault Logan, and this was the pride of our breakthrough in 2003. This was an Aston Martin project. We were very lucky that we got the first breakthrough against the Italian competition with a brand like Aston Martin. Some of the Indian projects, Revas. Some of the aircraft that we have designed is a Gulfstream 550. We did it for a Middle Eastern client. I'll skip that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful job. I think the next car, I think I'll be sending to you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Friends,